Let's call the August 16th, 2021 meeting of the Dalton City Council to order. Ms. Harlan will lead us in the pledge. Flag, United States of America. Republic, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The agenda is before you. Any additions, corrections, deletions? If not, do I hear a motion to be approved? Motion by Ms. Harden, second by Mr. Goodlett. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. I didn't receive any cards from the public, so I guess no one wants to make any comments. If Catherine Selders and Dale Bailey will meet me down front of that proclamation.
Picture time.
Proclamation for Constitution Week, September 17th through 23rd, 2021. September 17th, 2021 marks the anniversary of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. Whereas every anniversary of the Constitution provides a historic opportunity for Americans to learn about and to reflect upon the rights and privileges of citizenship and its responsibilities. Whereas it is fitting and proper to afford official recognition to this. And whereas public law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation through 23rd Street. It was all, I'm David Pennington, Mayor of the City of Dalton, Georgia. Hereby. Constitution Week and urge all citizens privilege of being an American with all the rights. Thank you, ladies, for keeping this in front of your city. Picture, young.
Yes.
There you go.
Catherine's going to say
A few of the things we do is we go into the schools and enhance what the teachers do about the Constitution. Just some of our ladies even dress up in revolutionary costumes and go in and encourage the children to read the Constitution and understand what it means. And we also go to the media in different ways and spread the information through the community and through social media as well as public media, radio and newspapers. We all need to reread it yearly. So I encourage you to look it up online and read at least the preamble and know what the Constitution is about.
Thank you, Catherine and Dale. Next on the agenda is the minutes of the August 2nd, 2021 meeting. Any corrections, additions, deletions? If not, motion by Ms. Harden, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Goodlett. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like so. Under unfinished business, number 3, ordinance 21-13, second reading of the unified zoning ordinance, proposed text amendments for accessory structures, townhouses, procedures regarding rezoning, withdrawals, small animals, and microbreweries. Ethan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe I'll be brief on this particular item. The only change that has been made to this proposal since the last time I presented it to the mayor and council is the fact that the gross vehicle weight permissible in the R5 zone district for the accessory structures portion of that unified zoning ordinance text amendment is that the vehicles that can be parked on the property, the work vehicles, can be not in excess of 14,000 pounds of gross vehicle weight. That essentially accounts for 1-ton F-350, 3,500 style trucks, dualies, things like that, that might have been outfitted with the work boxes and things on the back of those. So that was the only change that was made by the county commission. That has been adopted by the Whitfield County Board of Commissioners as well as the mayor and council of the city of Barnell. And opposition was heard again at the original public hearing we held for that, so no issues were identified. Simply worked through the discrepancy of the gross vehicle weight to ensure that we weren't setting that too low, but also ensuring that we did have a gross vehicle weight limit to prevent large vehicles. Happy to answer any questions you all may have on the text amendments.
Questions, Ethan? Your motion on this? Motion by Ms. Hardin, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Goodlett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like so. Number 4, new business ordinance 21-14, the request of Walter Benitez to rezone from heavy manufacturing M2 to medium density, single family residential R3, attractive land totaling 0.23 acres located at 1120 Riverbend Road, Dalton, parcel 12-255-03-018. Ethan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This particular property here is similar to a number that we have seen in the past, and that is those areas inside the city that have been zoned heavy commercial or manufacturing that are in fact residential. They were just swallowed up by that zone district back when the city had a pyramid zoning ordinance, and M2 essentially meant that you could have single family uses, dwellings, things like that on a property. And that zoning stayed the same, even though the unified zoning ordinance was adopted in 2015, which then made it such that manufacturing zone properties could not have conforming residential uses. So therefore, the property's been non-conforming. Now, by our ordinance's standards, it could continue as such. But in order to sell a property or to purchase a property and obtain a mortgage to buy a home, most banks will not lend that mortgage to a property if it is not zoned residential. Even though we can send letters about nonconformity and grandfathering and such, so forth, banks just prefer that it be rezoned. So this situation came up, and the staff analysis was to approve this rezoning based on the fact that there was no issue identified with any negative impact to the adjacent properties. I think as certainly as you look along the street, some of the aerial photographs there, anybody that may be familiar with this area, you'll notice that there's a number of small tracts. Most of those contain single family dwellings. So the R3 zoning was a much better fit for the subject property. And of course, in R3 moving forward, that is single family only. But that's just a smaller lot, higher density, single family product. So we found that to be the best fit for that area. There was no issue with the comprehensive plan, and no opposition was heard in the public hearing. And the planning commission recommendation was to approve unanimously. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I got one question. I have one question on that site, or the other sites, obviously before this recommendation, but for those other sites, are they residential or are they heavy manufactured as well?
The other small tracts adjacent to the property, most all of those are residential.
Okay, because that may be a consideration for some of those folks.
Any other questions? Your motion on this?
So move.
Motion by Mr. Cruz?
Mhm.
Yep. Motion by Mr. Cruz. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Goodlett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Ordinance 21-15, the request of Fernando Montoya to rezone from medium density residential R3 to rural residential R5, attractive land totaling 0.25 acres located at 236 Mountain View Drive, Dalton, Georgia, parcel 12-216-02-039. Ethan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is another issue slightly different than the last one that we saw, going from, in this case, single family, medium density to rural residential. The big difference here is that in the R5 zone district that's been requested, you can have a duplex dwelling on a property. The existing property and this zoning came about by the building inspector issuing a permit to this individual to build an addition to their single family dwelling. And that addition permit did not include provisions for a kitchen or bathroom and some other amenities that upon final inspection by the building inspector was determined that those were included in this addition. And essentially this addition comprised an exterior entrance that could be essentially this extra addition could be accessed from outside the house without having to go only through the inside of the home. And that there is a full kitchen or kitchenette as part of this with an oven, a stove, sink, and cabinets and so forth, as well as a full bathroom and other living quarters, as well as a laundry room. And so the building inspector felt that it was such that this met the essentially the standard for a duplex from at least a functional standpoint, and believed that this property would either need to be rezoned to R5, or some of the amenities, such as, for instance, the kitchenette, would need to be removed for that final permit to be approved. And that would remove that instance of essentially an independent additional dwelling on this subject property's single-family residence. And that was the finding of the staff analysis, just looking at zoning in the area. It really didn't make sense on the zoning map, if you have a look at that, to rezone the property to R5, because the existence of R5 in this area is almost essentially none. And there are some properties of a higher intensity manufacturing near the property, but if you'll note in the staff analysis, it states that several of those smaller tracts are actually single-family dwellings also. So when we take a look at the area, single family is the character of this area. And when we look at the comprehensive plan and so forth, the character of introducing multifamily to an area that is single family, very consistently single family, zoned and developed, was a little out of character for the comprehensive plan. So staff recommendation was not to approve the rezoning based on the fact that this rezoning would create somewhat of an island of R5, which could eventually grow itself and affect other properties. So we didn't, staff didn't feel it was a great opportunity to introduce the R5 zone district to this area because of those factors. Let's see, and I don't believe we had any opposition in the public hearing, but staff recommendation, the planning commission recommendation was unanimous denial based on the factors of the staff analysis. But I think there were some requirements or some requests made by some of the planning commission to figure out a way to find some middle ground. I think part of the staff analysis noted that without rezoning the property, the individual wouldn't have to tear out the addition to the home. They would simply have to remove that kitchenette feature, which would constitute that independent dwelling unit in the addition. So that could be satisfied without necessarily having to go through the trouble of rezoning the property or do any major alterations to that addition. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Your motion on this?
Carrie just needs to, if you want to follow the denial recommendation, we would just make a motion that it be denied. That is the recommendation of the, it was a denial, yes?
Yes, on the Montoya. Yes, ma'am.
But they'll still have the option to take the kitchenette out and everything.
Yes,
Okay.
they would have the option to simply take that amenity out of that addition and leave the rest.
Okay.
So as I'm building inspector's perspective.
Your motion?
Motion to deny, but with the stipulations that.
Motion by
they said.
Mr. Good, is there a second? Second by Ms. Harlan, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Number 6, ordinance 21-16 to request VCM Crawford Mcdonald to rezone from general commercial C2 to high-density residential R7, a tract of land totaling 0.74 acres located at 501 North Hamilton Street, Belton, Georgia, parcel 12-200-24-000. Ethan?
Mr. Mayor, we're looking at a different scenario here altogether, going from general commercial to high density residential. So we take a look first and foremost at the subject property. I think most are probably familiar with this property, and there's several photographs of it from street view in the staff analysis. Of course, it's had a number of uses over the decades that it's existed, from a supermarket to a funeral home and many things in between. And the current request, it would essentially change the commercial character of the property to residential, specifically an apartment complex, single story, apartment complex. And based on the site and its existing character, as the staff was informed, this change to the property would, this proposal for apartments would occupy the existing structure on the property, and it would essentially be redeveloped into these apartments. Some of the requirements staff looked into were, number one, first and foremost, was parking. It was found that based on the proposed number of units in the application, that there would be sufficient parking, essentially actually in excess of parking, based on that information that staff had in the application. And other factors that were looked into were the comprehensive plan, and of course, this area being inside the town neighborhood revitalization character area. So this is an area to promote reinvestment and new investment into aging areas of the city. And this property would fall well within that character area. And when we look at the surrounding uses, one of the things in that comprehensive plan was that any site development that be new be respectful to the existing development pattern. And when we shot back and look at the zoning map as it currently exists, this property is on general commercial. It's adjacent to several medium density residential properties with single family homes on those. So the types of uses that could be permitted in general commercial are usually seen as far more intensive and impactful to a residential neighborhood than R7 would be. At least they share the residential character. And therefore, a staff recommendation was that this zone district could be approved for this property, and the fact that the property could be a candidate. Issues that were noted were that the properties does encroach onto the required buffer area for those R3 properties that are adjacent to it. But the property is developed as such, even as it is currently in C2, is non-conforming as it stands. So unless the building is completely demolished, there'll never be an opportunity to really satisfy the buffer requirements on this property, whether it's rezoned tonight or whether it's left in commercial, unless the entire property were raised and redeveloped. So staff did set that aside. We do note it as an issue, but it doesn't necessarily affect the request for rezoning. And the recommendation by staff was to approve. Recommendation by the Planning Commission, unanimous approval as well, and no opposition was heard during the public hearing. I'm happy to answer any questions.
You're saying they want to put apartments in the existing building?
Yes, sir. Correct. Specifically, the application states 11 apartment units at approximately 900 square feet per unit, which meets the minimum unit size for dwelling units in the city of Dalton.
I believe it's been the council's discussion about that whole area up there, Spencer Street, North Hamilton. We're trying to come up with a redevelopment plan for that entire area. It's been somewhat held up with the stormwater issues that we've got coming from that area also. I'll let the council speak and whatever they want to.
I'd like to make a motion that we table it just because we're able to, start having some of those. I would ask that we table it.
Where are we, Andrew, with the stormwater plan over there?
So we're working diligently to develop a first-class stormwater plan, and this area is also included because of the aging infrastructure. It's one of the oldest parts of the city. And hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll be able to produce that plan to the council. A couple other things to keep in mind is that the DDDA is also working on a plan to look at potentially having further limits of downtown to the north, which would involve this parcel, as well as the HPC with the Crown Mill. So I think that's a couple other reasons why we need to maybe take a step back at the moment and see how all these plans come together and how that might impact this parcel.
Any other questions, Ethan?
Mr. Mayor, my understanding is if we were to deny it, it takes a
Wait a
year to
year.
come back. So being that said, and apparently more information we need to know, I would be in favor of tabling it as well.
I make a motion that we table it.
Motion by Ms. Harlan. Is that a second, Gary?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cruz. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Number 7, ordinance 21-17, the request of Brian Anthony Santos to annex 0.17 acres located at 1226 Fraser Drive into the city of Dalton is medium-density, single-family residential R3, parcel 12-179-02-056. You again, Ethan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this property here, we're going out to annexation because the county and city share the unified zoning ordinance. One of the great benefits of that is the annexation is much simpler, more often than not, in that the zone district that's applied to the property can stay exactly the same. So in this case, the property is R3 currently. No changes are to be made there. This would simply be an annexation into the city of Dalton by this property. And I think most are familiar with this area. Fraser Drive has been recently developed in the last few years. And most of the lots are very similar in character. This is part of an unincorporated county island within inside the city of Dalton. So the staff recommendation was to approve based on primarily on that factor. And the planning commission's recommendation was to approve unanimously. No opposition was heard in regard to the annexation at the public hearing. Happy to answer any.
City schools are fine with it too?
We heard no comment from the city schools. They were sent out information to comment. We had received no comment.
Andrew, is this one of the ones we were talking about of probably trying to get everybody kind of on board that way we don't have spotty going down through there?
That's right. I recommend that we proactively contact the remaining homeowners in this block of development. There were about 30 single-family homes that were constructed at the same time. This would make the second parcel that's annexed, and the city department heads have been asked to review a third. So as we continue to have more requests, it would provide for smoother delivery of services if they were all city, if the residents are willing to make the request.
Thank you.
Once again, I'd make sure the schools are on board with this, because obviously all those kids will be going to city schools instead of county schools.
That's right. I understand on the first one, we asked that question and they said that they have the capacity to accommodate these 30 homes.
Any other questions, Ethan? Is there a motion
I
on
have,
this?
I have one question. So we're looking at this one site that they're going to do it, and the rest, you said there's 2 more done already?
There's one that's been annexed already. I think it's 1230 Fraser, and it's the only one so far. Once this one is approved or whatever, it would be the second, and we've already had a third request. So I don't mind crafting a letter.
I understand the map now. I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Cruz, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Goodlett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. 8, intergovernmental agreement between the city of Dalton and Dalton Public Schools for the improvement of public facilities for community complex soccer fields and joint use. You, Andrew?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an intergovernmental agreement between the city and public school system to provide for a community soccer complex between at the Heritage Point campus. The school system, as you know, has a regulation size soccer field under construction at the Dalton Junior High campus. The city is pursuing construction of 2 fields on the original Heritage Point campus, just east of Park Creek School on the other side of Mill Creek. What this agreement provides for is there is some property that needs to be transferred to the city in order to construct the city's 2 fields. The school system will issue a warranty deed for that property that's needed. It also provides for a emergency access easement and a temporary construction easement at Fire Station 5. We've been coordinating through the fire chief to make sure that will not interrupt any services that they provide. It will also address the field use terms between the 2 fields because there's enough demand in the Parks and Rec system and potentially the school system to make use of all 3 fields, either by the city or by the school system when some of these tournaments come in. So the IGA addresses the field use terms. And then it also addresses the preparation of an outdoor extension classroom at the city's 2 fields that will be utilized by the Park Creek Elementary School team. And then finally, in light of the considerations above, it authorizes a transfer payment to the school system for turf at its field. That way all 3 fields will be synthetic turf and they can be used year round. There's enough need with the city system to be able to use that 3rd field quite a bit, and we need it to be synthetic turf. And it also addresses insurance requirements among both parties. If we have a contractor working on their field or vice versa, the minimum insurance requirements between the two parties. Did I miss anything, Mr. Miller? Okay, and I will say that the Board of Education approved this at their August 9th meeting as well.
Questions, of Andrew? Your motion on this?
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Cruz, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Harden, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Professional service agreement with Lowry and Associates Land Surveying LLC for topographic survey at City Hall and Tyler Street Crossing.
Yes, this is for a request for topography study for and a boundary survey for the lot that's here adjacent to City Hall. Also a boundary survey and some information for the Tyler Street crossing so that we can look at what stormwater is doing downstream from here. This is part of the Prater Alley drainage basin studies, and it's going to be needed for facilitating the design so that we can get some stuff done. And also this was approved or gave a positive recommendations from a previous Public Works Committee meeting. The total will be $3,800. And we do have money in the stormwater funds for SP 171, which is Prater Alley. It's from the 2015 SPLOST.
Any questions, Megan? Your motion on this?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Goodlett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cruz. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Number 10, general construction agreement with Signature Tennis Courts for resurfacing 10 tennis courts at Lakeshore Park.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have this one. Greg Walker couldn't be here tonight. This is a construction agreement with Signature Tennis Courts for resurfacing the 10 courts at Lakeshore Park in preparation for the couples tournament that's coming to town in November. The courts are in need of basic repair like filling cracks, cleaning cracks, resealing the court with an acrylic topping, restriping. This was an approved 2021 CIP project, so the funding is available in the budget. And the cost is $46,385. This was competitively sourced. There were 2 proposals, and Signature Tennis Courts did score out the highest. They will be providing a 5-year warranty with this scope of work. And this agreement was unanimously recommended by the Recreation Commission.
Any questions, Andrew? Your motion on this?
So moved.
You, Gary? His mask. Motion by Mr. Cruz, second by Ms. Harden. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Number 11, ratification professional services agreement with the Mercer Group for Recreation Director Search. Greg?
Yes, sir. Thank you all and good evening. The Mercer Group is a professional search group that the Rec Commission has been looking at to fill the long vacant rec director's position. And they pretty much exclusively work within Georgia and within municipalities and counties to make executive placements. So asking for your ratification on this so that we can get the ball rolling.
Any questions, Greg? Your motion? Motion by Ms. Harden, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Goodlett. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
Thank you.
Number 12, adoption of 2021 millage rate at the rollback rate of 2.208 mils. Cindy?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, you've all been given copies of the city's assessed property value and exemptions as determined by the Whitfield County Tax Assessor, as well as a copy of the computation of the millage rate rollback of 2.208 mils. As you know, this computation results in no property tax increase to the taxpayers of the city of Dalton per formula developed by Georgia Department of Revenue. The notice of the current tax digest and 5-year history of levy have been advertised and placed on the city's website. This will result in a decrease of the 2021 tax revenue of approximately $303,000 from what we budgeted for 2021. With that being said, our overages from our sales tax and our TABT tax will well cover this shortfall. So I recommend that the council adopt the rollback rate of 2.208 mils.
Everybody understand? Any questions, Cindy? Is there a motion on this? Motion by Ms. Harden, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cruz. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. We're going to skip 13 first under supplemental business. I'm declaring a state of emergency in the city of Dalton due to rising COVID hospitalizations. I'm going to read this state of emergency in full. Whereas the United States of America has experienced an event of critical significance as a result of the coronavirus disease, COVID-19. Whereas on March 13th, 2020, President Donald Trump declared a national emergency for the United States of America in response to COVID-19. Whereas on March 14th, 2020, Governor Brian Kemp declared a public health emergency due to COVID-19, most recently extended an additional 30 days from July 30th, 2021 at 11:59 p.m. Whereas Hamilton Medical Center, located in the city of Dalton, Georgia, has experienced a significant increase in hospitalizations due to COVID-19, causing staffing shortages and difficulty delivering essential medical care to patients during the public health emergency. Whereas HMC's immediate staffing need in light of COVID-19 is an emergency situation requiring the activation of local emergency operations plan so that the city of Dalton may provide immediate assistance to HMC. Now therefore, pursuant to Chapter 34, Article 11 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Dalton, Georgia, and the authority vested in me therein as mayor of the city of Dalton, it is hereby ordered as follows. Article 1, a state of emergency exists within the territory limits of the city of Dalton, Georgia, and shall continue until the conditions requiring this declaration are abated. Article 2, the present emergency requires the activation of local emergency operations plan insofar as it needed to manage the present public health emergency. Article 3, the following sections of the City of Dalton Code of Ordinances are now available. Section 34-29, powers during emergency or disaster. Section 34-30, volunteers. Section 34-31, violations. Section 34-32, penalties. If one or more of the provisions contained in this declaration shall be held to be invalid in the violation of the United States Constitution, Georgia Constitution, or federal Georgia law, or unenforceable in any respect, such invalidity, violation, or unenforceability shall not affect any other provisions of this declaration, but in such case, this declaration shall be construed as if such provision had never been contained within the declarations. Article 5, all provision of this declaration shall become effective upon signature. That will require no council action. But another thing attached to that, and Andrew, I think you're going to go over, is the mask mandate back in city buildings.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Due to the rising cases and the community uptick, I've just looked at the 3 p.m. update from the Department of Public Health. We've had about 700 positive cases in the county over the last 2 weeks. We also, we've had staff listen to the 4 o'clock here, our press conference with Governor Deal and Dr. Toomey with the Department of Public Health. They are seeing these issues statewide. And so as a measure to keep our employees safe and our customers, visitors to the city safe, we're going to be reinstituting the mask mandate with city buildings. That includes employees that will be within public areas of the building, closer than 6 feet for more than 15 minutes, as well as any visitors to the city will be required to wear a mask. We'll post that at all the doors. This is a best practice that's been recommended by the CDC and Department of Public Health as we continue to navigate this very dynamic pandemic.
That goes into effect tomorrow.
Upon execution of the order. So yes, sir, tomorrow morning.
Any other questions? There a motion?
So move.
Motion by Ms. Harlan, second by Mr. Goodlett. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, like sign. I can't impress enough. As of Friday, the CDC said that 99% of the people in America in the hospital have not been vaccinated. I would suggest that you talk to your doctor, whatever, to see if you haven't been vaccinated, that you're able to take the vaccination, because that's the one way we can start putting an end to this. Number 13, I need a motion to go into executive session. You sure can. Yeah, you sure can. Yeah.
The city of Dalton is an entity, okay, and this community, I'm not excluding the community at large, but so I'm speaking about the city of Dalton as an entity, is participated in actually being a vaccine administrator. So we order our own vaccine, we house it, we manage all of the paperwork that goes into data entry, and that's about 20,000 data entry occurrences to date, maybe a little bit more. So that's about 10,000 persons that we've vaccinated And we did the majority of vaccinations that happened in floor covering places, the larger employers for certain. The city of Dalton personnel vaccinated, along with support from volunteers from some local healthcare companies and off-duty hospital staff members. So it's been a group effort, and now we're going to have a very wonderful privilege to offer treatment that is very early stage treatment for COVID infection, and even when applicable, prophylactic treatment for people that have had significant exposures to COVID that are not vaccinated or are highly vulnerable people, even if they are vaccinated. And that's monoclonal antibody therapy. So tomorrow at some point, there will be a media announcement about the availability and accessibility of monoclonal antibody therapy on a more readily available basis because of how it is administered. The hospital has been doing a fantastic job at administering that, but they've been so extremely limited on their manpower ability to do it and just how readily available the drug can be. So we will have information that we'll push out from the City of Dalton's website and Facebook, and we'll communicate with the newspaper, and honestly, we'll be calling news channel places and things to let this be known, because it's probably the sharpest tool we have right now to mitigate the impact that the hospital has right at this moment and in the days and weeks to come. What's going to impact us getting through this surge 8+ weeks from now is going to be getting more people vaccinated. There is not any person that shouldn't be vaccinated. I think those are very few cases, few and far between, where an actual physician has said, I have to advise you, you're not eligible. Those will not be the people that keep us in a pandemic, those scattered about. But if you are of the opinion, or you know someone of the opinion that they feel they won't be sick, you're the spreader. And you're a part of the challenge that we keep encountering. So please urge people to get vaccinated. We will be at Dalton State College tomorrow in the Student Center. You don't have to be a Dalton State student to come. And there's now opportunity to win prizes and things and enter raffles. And so we're trying to make it, exciting and interesting to get vaccinated. And if you are vaccinated and you want to enter to win, you can bring some unvaccinated friends and get those folks vaccinated. But we need to do what we can to try to come together as a community and get through this. But there will be information forthcoming about monoclonal antibody therapy. Okay.
One more thing too that I forgot to have action taken on, which is the MOU with Hamilton Medical Center. Do each one of y'all have this MOU? I'm going to go ahead and read it all then, since they haven't had it. This memorandum of understanding MOU is made by and between the City of Dalton, a Georgia municipality, and Hamilton Healthcare System, Inc., a nonprofit healthcare provider. The purpose of this MOU is to set forth an understanding in terms of agreement by and between the city and HACS for interim additional staffing and assistance in the event the emerging increase in COVID-19 hospitalizations at Hamilton Medical Center places an extraordinary stress on its current staffing capacities. Upon request of HHCS through its chief operating officer to the city, through its city administrator, the city will provide such personnel of the city in its sole discretion as may be useful to HHCS in handling its operations under the extraordinary medical service demands of COVID-19 hospitalizations. While the city does not guarantee a specific number of personnel on any particular day nor over any measurable period, it is willing and able to incentivize and offer both persons with paramedic EMT licensure, as well as personnel able to assist in stocking and handling supplies and providing general assistance to regular staff of Hamilton Medical Center. The city will pay all city personnel who accept and perform assignment at Hamilton Medical Center a 30% premium above the employee's base rate, meaning hourly rate or overtime rate. In no event shall any city employee performing such services be paid less than Federal Fair Labor Standard Act rules and regulations permit. No city employee shall be required to perform services at Hamilton Medical Center. However, any city employee who does not desire to perform such work upon assignment by his or her supervising authority shall opt out by notifying their supervisor. There shall be no adverse consequences to any city employee for opt-out during the hours of period of such assigned work at Hamilton Medical Center. All city personnel shall continue fully in city employment with all existing benefits, including workers' compensation coverage. HHCS shall not recruit any city employees for full-time employment. HHCS shall reimburse city for the wages of all city employees assigned to Hamilton Medical Center, which includes the employer's FICA and FUTA contributions. The city shall provide HHCS its report for each city payroll period. Additionally, HHCS shall reimburse city for any workers' compensation expense incurred for occupational injury or disease of any city employee in the course of work at Hamilton Medical Center in excess of the city's standard premiums for workers' compensation. City employees assigned to Hamilton Medical Center shall wear and exhibit a distinctive badge indicating their employment by the city of Dalton, and at the discretion of the city may wear a distinctive shirt or top with City of Dalton insignia of their own. In no event shall any city personnel perform any activity at Hamilton Medical Center except under supervision and direction of HHCS nurses, physicians, designated technicians, or designated HHCS staff. No paramedic or EMT of the city shall be asked by HHCS to perform any clinical function beyond what the employee's licensure shall permit. In the event that the city shall be held liable on account of any act or omission to act of any of its employees assigned to Hamilton Medical Center, the city shall be indemnified by HHCS to the extent thereof. The term for this MOU shall not exceed 12 weeks from the date of execution by the parties, though it may be renewed by mutual consent of the parties. The parties agree in good faith to confer as necessary over further terms and conditions. Circumstances unanticipated may occur in the condition of COVID-19 hospitalizations and community may change. For the city, its city administrators shall serve as contact and representative for any such issues or discussions for HHCS. Who, is it not you, Andrew?
For the city, but we're going to.
Oh, for Hamilton, okay. This MOU shall serve as the agreement between city and HHCS, and any amendment or modification must be reduced to writing and signed by the parties. This MOU is made in consideration of both federal and state emergency pandemic declarations with the intent that all liability, immunities, and protections thereunder for the employees of either party and for the city and HHCS be applicable. Further, this MOU is made in consideration of that mayoral declaration of the local state of emergency related to rising COVID-19 hospitalizations of August 16th, 2021. Any questions on that? Your motion on this?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Cruz, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Goodlett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Now I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn into executive session.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Goodlett, there's a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Cruz. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. I guess we'll go up to upstairs conference room. So, did Gary second? All in favor, we're gone.
Go.